You're listening to a special weekend edition of Vote Her In, a collaboration between two broads talking politics and author Rebecca Sive.
Are you listening?
Hi everyone, this is Kelly. You are listening to Vote Her In, which is a collaboration of two broads talking politics and author Rebecca Sive. Today we are broadcasting from quarantine, which may be what we're doing for a while now. So I am going to turn it over to Rebecca now, who will introduce our guest for today. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Kelly, and hello, everyone. We are so lucky today. I want to just say that at the outset because our wonderful guest, Anna Galland from MoveOn, is going to be talking with all of us about the women stepping up and what we can do and the broader context of our political work. So in a minute, I'm going to turn it over to her with a question about that. But I want to preface our discussion by just noting some news of, I believe, yesterday. Tulsi Gabbard withdrew from the race for the presidency in the Democratic primary. And what, of course, that means is that there are no women left running. And so what I wanted to say related to that news is that while we started this podcast with the idea of tracking and mobilizing and inspiring the effort to have a woman nominee, in my mind, it was always ASAP. So it doesn't look like it'll be 2020, but there's a lot of work for all of us to do to make the case for women leading and women stepping up. And I know that Anna is going to be sharing some ideas and thoughts about that with us. So keep reading about how women can organize, keep advocating for Vote Her In. And with that, I thought we would start with asking Anna about what she thinks we ought to be focusing on right now in terms of our organizing and messaging and other thoughts she has, in particular about MoveOn, which she led for so many years and is still instrumental with, and other activities that we're all undertaking. So welcome, Anna. I know you've got a lot on your plate like so many of us, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, of course. Thanks for bringing me in and for all the work you're doing with this community. My first thought is just to share, I assume that everyone who is part of this Vote Her In community and listens to this podcast is in some version of a personal hurricane. Either you're stuck at home by yourself and kind of climbing the walls and wishing you could get together with your friends, or you're taking care of a sick relative at a distance or up close, or you have a special needs kid who's out of school and is therefore desperately in need of extra support that you may be feeling ill-equipped to provide. Or in my case, you may have 3 kids under 9 who are at home without school, that you're trying to keep entertained while doing important work that is extra intense while we are all reconfiguring to this new reality. So I just want to say, wherever you are not alone. This is a wild, historic moment. We will look back on it for the rest of our lives as a moment when the world changed. And I think we are all still getting our heads around just how profoundly it has changed. What hasn't changed is women in every household, in every school, in every elder community, in every city hall and town hall and state house and in Congress, ways in which women are holding us together right now, taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other, showing extraordinary creativity and resolve in making sure that no one gets left behind in a moment of community-wide crisis, public health crisis, economic crisis, and social and civic fabric crisis. So that's just a place to start. Thanks for being one of those women who's taking care of yourself and others in a moment of extraordinary challenge. You're not alone, and we are going to get through this together.
And related to that, Anna, since we are going to get through this together and we are getting through it together, would you begin here with sharing about some of the work that's going on and what we all can do as we can? And I know Kelly will have some follow-up thoughts on that too, based on her work with Demcast.
Yeah. So let's just think from the most micro and the most immediate to the most macro and what you can do vis-a-vis our political situation. So on the most micro, everyone should, of course, take care of yourself, take care of your mental health through a very challenging period of social distancing. Keep yourself healthy as much as you can. Make sure that you are, as possible, in your community, going for walks, washing your hands frequently, doing everything you can to listen to public health officials and help flatten the curve of the spread of coronavirus. And take care of yourself through that. That's the most micro. I think one level out from that is finding ways to support your family, your block, your apartment building, your town, your whatever you consider to be your core communities. This is a moment for mutual aid, for finding out who might need a grocery service, who might need to be checked in on. One thing I've loved seeing in both Australia and in England, there's been the hashtag viral kindness, which means what can you do to support people around you? Think of the couple of people that you have a way to connect with, set up a communication channel, whether it's on text or WhatsApp or Facebook or email, and think about how you can cover your block to check in on people without contacting them, right? You can leave a note on someone's stoop. You can send a message to your neighborhood listserv. So I think we need to do something that we are in some communities a little rusty at, which is think at the neighborhood and community level about how to check on each other and offer support from a safe distance, and being careful not to, we're not going to hold neighborhood community meetings in living rooms right now. But we might take 6 at 6, get people in your neighborhood to come outside at 6 o'clock, keeping a 6-foot distance from each other, and have someone bring a guitar or someone sing, and really literally get together in some way that builds community and mutual support in this moment. One level out from there, actually to zoom up to the national level for a moment, I really want to celebrate the leadership of Kristen Gillibrand, who the reason that there is an incredible story overnight that people may be tracking, that Republican members of Congress in the Senate and also on the House side, especially Senator Burr, accessed confidential briefings because of their role in the Senate early in this pandemic, and then went and personally profited from their advanced knowledge that the economy was going to be radically transformed. Senator Burr, in particular, sold something like $1 million worth of personal stock in firms that he expected would be tanking, and therefore personally profited off of this tragedy at the same time as he was telling the country, everything's fine, Trump has this under control. Now, the only reason we know about this shocking and appalling personal corruption and abdication of duty is because Kristen Gillibrand helped overhaul the insider trading law and disclosure laws that affect members of Congress. So a woman leader in Congress is the reason that we know about Senator Burr's shocking, appalling, corrupt actions. So I want to lift that up and then say that what can we do? So number one, this is a moment for advocacy to ensure that Congress is passing the most bold and appropriate to the level of crisis legislation possible that includes things like universal basic income. People are, estimates are that we may see unemployment surge to 20 or more percent, which would be on par with the Great Depression, nothing that I have seen in my lifetime. We are seeing estimates that many, many, many workers are immediately losing their jobs, and many more will be losing their jobs in the kind of waves of contractions that are to come. That's a really devastating situation economically. And although I started with talking about mutual support on the neighborhood level, that's not going to be enough. We need to actually see bold action by Congress that rises to the level of this situation. So a pandemic relief bill that provides free treatment to everyone with no one left out, regardless of economic status, regardless of immigration status, regardless of ability. We need to see Congress putting money in people's pockets immediately on the order of $1,500 to $2,000 a month for as long as this lasts. We need to see fixes to our economy with debt relief. Think of all the students. You may have a student in your life who's in this situation, who are in theory supposed to be paying back student loans in a moment where they may have just lost a job and there's not another one available. So it's a moment for massive debt relief, and it's a moment for paid leave. So one of the problems that we know, of course, is that workers, including at the giant companies that Trump paraded in front of the podium at one of his press conferences in the midst of this, giant companies do not provide paid leave because they are not required to, and they are not actually going to be taking the actions that they need to take out of some kindness of their heart, which means sick workers will come to work. They will get others sick. It will hasten the spread of this terrible virus, and more people will suffer and more people will die. So we need paid sick leave to be universal for the duration of this crisis and frankly beyond, as it's a scandal that we didn't have it in place already. Basically, the headline here is what you can do right now is to call your member of Congress and say, I'm expecting the most bold action. Don't let Republicans offer the most visionary proposals right now. I want to see every single member of Congress swinging for the fences to try and head off a catastrophic depression and make sure we leave no one behind. In a moment where we need to address GOP incompetence and corruption, I want to ask my member of Congress to think bigger, do more. Don't rein in your thinking for what's needed, because what's needed is something we probably haven't seen in our lifetime.
Exactly. And on that point, Kelly, I know you've been thinking a bit about sort of internet ways of doing the kinds of work that Anna is describing. Can you direct our listeners to those resources at Demcast and elsewhere that you've identified?
Yeah, so a number of organizations, everybody everywhere in the political world has had to sort of on a dime turn and rethink how you do organizing. And so groups like Demcast, lots of groups have been thinking about the things that we've already put into place about virtual organizing. Things like phone banking and text banking could already easily be done remotely. Obviously, fundraising needs to completely shift, at least in the short term, how this is done. Things like knocking on doors not going to be possible in the short term. And so a lot of organizations are stepping up and offering training sessions, for instance. So at Demcast, we've been offering virtual trainings on things like starting a podcast or using Twitter, or things that will be increasingly important now. Anna, do you have a follow-up on that? I know that there are lots of organizations that are doing this kind of work, thinking about this work. This was a shift that was happening in the organizing space already, and so now this is sort of just propelling that shift to be even quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is going to have to do what I'm thinking of as a rapid, immediate digital retrofit, meaning the work that you have planned needs to very quickly adapt to be able to reach people remotely. If you are part of an organizing network or an organization that was relying on a conference or a physical convening, if you were part of a field program for a campaign for candidate that was relying on knocking on doors, I think everyone's already, of course, thinking this through, but the headline is we need to get our sort of put your own oxygen mask on first to make sure that you are in a healthy and sustainable place on the home front for what's going to be a little bit of a while. And then think with the people who are relevant in your organization, in your volunteer project, in your network. Think about how to adapt how you work together. Make sure you have a standing Zoom call or a standing Google Hangout where you can connect regularly to talk through the challenges and the changes that are ahead for your project or your organization. And then on the kind of strategic planning and how do we actually carry out the work of contacting voters, of building volunteer networks, that work is going to need new resources. I will share with Rebecca and the full sort of podcast community here a resource that I've just seen developed, which is literally a database of people who understand digital organizing, who can support organizations that need to make a transition in their whole plan. It's going to end up being hundreds of people and firms long. Folks should add themselves if they can offer something to others. So we'll get that out, a resource basically of who can you talk to, who can help me change my organization or change my project. We will get that resource out to the Vote Her In community. And then I would just say, all of us, I think, need to be thinking about ways to build resilient networks and relationships from a distance. If you didn't have them already, now is the time to build them. And if you had them, it's time to reinvest. That is to say, does your project have a Facebook group, and are all your supporters or activists connected to it? Does your field program have a WhatsApp group of the volunteers who are going to go knock doors? Do you have an email list or a peer-to-peer text message platform set up to spread the word about opportunities that exist for people to get trained on video or on phone calls? So it's really a moment to shift our thinking, not towards, can I delay this in-person Canvas training until June? It's really the moment to build the systems we need to share information on the presumption that it may be a while before in-person voter activity can happen.
Exactly. And related to this, one of the things, Anna, I've been thinking a lot about is, what's the message here? Because, I just saw a poll this morning, and which I found distressing, which showed that a majority, it was in the 55%, something like that, of people were now approving of President Trump's activity related to this. And needless to say, for our listeners, I mean, he is the culpable person. That's a mild way of putting it. But I'm concerned that people will, in the moment, which is understandable, forget the depths to which he has brought us, and therefore the need for change. So I'm wondering about your thoughts on the sort of messaging around the specific projects or campaigns or pieces of legislation that you've suggested to keep us focused, so to speak, our eyes on the prize here, which is electing a president who does care about people and who knows how to get the job done honestly.
Yeah. I think that's a really good question. And I think it's the polling that people may see that says half or more of Americans think Trump is doing fine, or, whatever polls we see right now. Number one, don't panic. Managing our emotions and our mental health through this period is a strategic imperative. So don't panic, take a breath, step back, maybe close Twitter, and then think about the strategic arc we need to be on, which is people are going to be fairly desperate straits. Large numbers of people are going to be in fairly desperate straits for a while, trying to figure out how to get themselves sort of picked up back off the floor. We need to be doing advocacy vis-a-vis Congress, which we've talked a little bit about. You can you don't have to worry about keeping a bulleted list of exactly what the asks are, although it's great to go to groups like MoveOn and Indivisible to get that. You just should be calling Congress and saying, think bigger, think bigger, think bigger, do more.
Right.
But then after the advocacy and as a through line around our individual advocacy, we need to be preparing for accountability. And that's what I think you just got to there. How are we going to vote out these people in November? And how are we going to be making sure that we are spreading the best messaging and frames to the broad public? Really education, right? How are we educating people on what's being done to us? And there, I think the headline is something like, look, Trump and Republicans in Congress have absolutely failed all of us. They knew what was coming. They personally profited off of it. They went to social events with their favorite judges, didn't tell the public what was coming, and didn't prepare us. They didn't get masks. They didn't get ventilators. They didn't move ahead to stabilize the economy until this giant wave had swamped us. So the headline is reminding people as we go through this isn't just happening to us. This is being done to us by incompetent, corrupt, and cruel Republican leadership. And so our job is to support each other to survive and, as best as we can, thrive through a tremendous change in our society, and then to hold Trump and the GOP accountable for not just allowing this pandemic, but accelerating and making worse this pandemic and economic collapse that we're going to be seeing. So I guess my headline would be, first, take a breath. Know it's going to take a while. 2, call clients. 3, make sure you are signing up for and engaging with organizations that are going to be doing the work of national level organizing as well as state level organizing. That would include groups like MoveOn, that would include groups like Indivisible, that would include groups like Run for Something and Swing Left and Color of Change, all the kinds of groups that are going to be doing national messaging and organizing, engaging an activist base. Make sure you're following them, looking for advocacy opportunities with them, and preparing ourselves for that accountability. If you have a social media megaphone, it's a great moment to say right now, in your own words, why is this happening to us and who is doing this to us? And again, Trump and the GOP have accelerated and worsened and personally profited off of what's coming. At the same time that they were saying, don't worry, Trump's got it, they were personally profiting off of changes in the stock market. So that's, I guess, actually, I should add one step there to the what can you do? Again, take care of yourself, take care of your neighbors, take care of your community, and mind your own emotional and mental health through a very challenging period. Know that we will support each other through this. And then, if you have the means, it's a great moment to go and become a monthly supporter of one of the organizations or networks, Demcast, MoveOn, Indivisible, Color of Change, any of the groups that relies on small donor funding to do the important work of organizing and mobilizing in this moment. This is an important moment to double down on your support of those kinds of organizations so they can keep us moving together towards the finish line in November. Emily's List, whatever your chosen group is, NARAL, Planned Parenthood, choose your group, choose your groups. If you have a monthly contribution, bump it up. If you don't have one, time to start one, because one of the ways we're going to weather this storm is to ensure that the institutional and organizational resources that we have don't disappear or shrink or collapse into a much smaller version of themselves because they don't have the funding anymore to do their work.
Exactly. And just a one note as a follow-up, one of the things that struck me in the Illinois primary earlier this week was the number of women who won their races, and progressive women or women. And so what I want to add to your list of great organizations to support is to keep supporting these women candidates who still have races in the fall. Women are leading the way on so much of this, and to the extent we can, let's all come together and support these women however we can. They are also challenged about how to campaign, but we can be smart with them as well. Kelly, any final thoughts you want to share about how to be a great mom or a great organizer? I know you've been at this quarantine situation for about a week or so.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to remember to take care of their mental health. I have already had check-ins with my psychiatrist. Panic attacks are ramping up, so everyone needs to be mindful of their mental health, certainly. And I think we all need to sort of allow ourselves to know that we're not going to be perfect at everything. Certainly, I am not as good a teacher to my kids as their school teachers are. I'm not as able to do my work perhaps as I could do at work, but we're all in this situation and we're all in this together, and we'll make it through. And so we have to just allow ourselves, I think, that space, that ability to forgive ourselves if we're not perfect, because no one is perfect right now.
Yeah. I want to say in connection with that, just my own personal note, I'm older than you two, and so my mother's 96, and she lived through the Depression, and I know that there are others listening here who are also in my generation, and I have taken such strength and a positive approach from listening to my mother, watching my mother. She's one of the lucky people who's sent an email and active as she ever was. But I think that let's also take strength and goodness, I guess, from all of the people around us and those older people who figured out how to move forward. Anna, any parting thoughts? And then we're going to again say thank you and hope to see you back here soon.
Yeah, I just love what both of you said so much. Look, this is a moment that is tremendously stressful on everyone. With, I think the uncertainty, the immediate challenges that we face logistically and emotionally on the home front. But I think it's a moment to to recognize and see and not overlook the incredible ways in which people are stepping up to support each other. There's a wonderful book by Rebecca Solnit that if you have an opportunity to get on your Kindle or otherwise, it's called Paradise Built in Hell. And it's specifically about the ways in which people have fostered beautiful, uplifting, inspired, creative communities of mutual support in the midst of tremendous crisis. So look to our elders who've lived through horrors before and survived and learned and grown through it. And look to examples from history where we've overcome tremendous challenges and know that you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone. And we've got each other's backs through this. We can't really touch each other's backs, but we're here with each other remotely. Yeah. And take care and know that you're not alone and know we will get through this and we will make the adaptations to make our communities even more resilient and even more mutually supportive for the challenges.
Thank you again to our listeners. Thank you for everything you're doing. Take care of yourselves, and we will be back with you, as is our habit, and all the best to everybody. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Vote Her In segment is a collaboration of Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off of the album Elephant-Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.